Okay, review video number 3 for chapter number 3 for music appreciation, modern music appreciation. So, we're going to talk about the structures of music for this chapter. This is a pretty dense chapter, so you'll want to make sure to spend some extra time reviewing chapter 3. Chapter 3 starts talking about melody, and you need to know that a melody is an organized series of pitches. It's something that's happening over time. So rhythm is an important aspect of melody, but really melody, it's all about a single line of pitches that are happening over time, that are organized in some kind of manner. Now, there are subcategories of melodies, and one example of a type of melody is a tune. A tune is a simple, easy, singable melody. It's usually organized in a very clear way. That's why it's easy, that's why it's singable, that's why it's memorable as well. It's divided usually into phrases that often are 4 or 8 bars in length. And remember, bars are like measures, which are defined by bar lines, by the way. That's something I could have mentioned in the notation video, and it's something you should know for your exam. So again, a tune is an easy, simple, singable melody. Now, going back to melody, we talked in class about some things that were not in the book, and I want to make sure that you are up on those. And we talked about a melody, that a melody could be conjunct or disjunct. So I want to remind you that conjunct means smooth, that it moves mostly by step, and then disjunct means separated. Basically, an example of that would be leaping by several steps, or using larger intervals. Remember, intervals is the space between pitches. So I remember in class I sang some examples of that. So conjunct melodies, again, move by step. Disjunct would leap around. And that's another way of categorizing your melodies. Another way of categorizing the melodies is you could say that the melody is legato or staccato. Legato means smooth and connected, and staccato means separated or detached. That's something you should definitely know for the exam, and is something that you will find as well in your book. Okay, what else should we talk about? We should mention that most melodies have a climax. They have a high point that usually happens about 3/4 of the way through the melody. That's very important, and it's something that we just expect, we're used to when we listen to Western music. And maybe you're not specifically conscious of it, but it's often there, and you do expect it. Another thing that I'd like to review is the concept of a sequence. Sequences are often used in tunes, or often used in melodies in general. A sequence is an idea that is taken that more or less maintains its identity, but can be moved by pitch level upwards or downwards. So an example of a sequence would be something like da 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 da. I just gave an example of a sequence. So I took one idea and I kept moving it around. Now don't be confused with don't confuse sequence with motive. Motive is the shortest identifiable melodic idea that we have in music. I'm going to repeat that. A motive is the shortest identifiable idea. Okay? And an example of a motive would be ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba. Okay, that happened to be a sequence as well, but that ba 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 is a motive. And motives are often moved around, used in sequence, manipulated, changed, and that's one of the things that helps to unify larger compositions, such as the kind of compositions we find in classical music, symphonies and things like that. So, again, just to review, you should be familiar with what melody is, an organized series of pitches, what a tune is, which is a simple, short, singable version of a melody. You should know that a melody or a tune is often separated into phrases, which is an element actually of form, and that belongs to chapter 4. So we'll probably review that a bit more when I go over my review for chapter 4. You should know that melodies usually have a high point or a climax, and that they often use sequencing or a sequence to develop material. A motive is the shortest identifiable melodic idea, and you should also know that a melody can be legato or staccato, and it can be conjunct, moving by step, or disjunct. All right. What else are we going to cover in this chapter? Oh, another important element of music, and that is harmony. Harmony is important. And a melody can have its own, can be okay on its own. Like if I just sing a song for you right now, I would only be singing a melody. But harmony is having pitches being played simultaneously. It's the vertical aspect of music instead of just the horizontal. So basically, say I were to get out my guitar right now, sing a song and start playing, I would be accompanying myself, and when we have an accompaniment, we're using harmony. When we build harmony to support a melody, this is important, we are harmonizing that melody. Harmonizing means setting other notes, stacking other notes to support your melody. Okay, now I think I said if I were playing chords on my guitar, you should know what chords are, and those are those stacked notes that are part of harmony. So you should be ready to identify chords. You should know what harmony is. You should know what harmonizing or what harmonized means. So that covers basically harmony, except for one more really important point that I mentioned in class, last week, and that is the difference between consonance and dissonance. Harmony gives us a good example of that. I played some consonant chords and some dissonant chords for you in class. Consonant chord sounds at rest. It sounds like it's home. It sounds good. It sounds peaceful. A dissonant chord creates tension. And without consonance and dissonance, music it could get pretty boring unless we really develop another aspect of another element of music. So it's important to remember consonance means at rest, dissonance equals tension, and that by using those together we can create interest and expectation within a composition if you happen to be a composer. Okay, that covers harmony. The last thing I want to cover in this chapter is going to be texture. Now remember that texture is the term used for the blend of various sounds in music. So texture can be very thin or it can be very thick. There are three really important textures, the most common textures that are used in Western music, and those are monophony, homophony, and polyphony. Now there's another one, but you don't have to really worry about that too much, and that was heterophony. And that was when I was doing those fancy little added notes as I improvised a little bit with Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Now, we'll start with the easiest, the thinnest texture, and that is monophony. I want to remind you that monophony is what you do if you're singing in the shower. Monophony is a texture that only includes the melody. So if I just sing a song for you, I'm using monophony. Or if I take out my guitar and play one line, or if I play a flute one note at a time, I am playing monophonically. It's monophony is the texture. Now, homophony is when I add an accompaniment or I create a harmony. So if I start strumming chords and singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat or any song, that's homophony. Or if a bunch of people are singing together and they're singing different pitches to create chords, that is also an example of homophony. Now the third component, polyphony, that's many lines happening at once. And I want to remind you that that can be imitative or non-imitative. And when we did the round in Row, Row, Row Your Boat, that was an example of polyphony. Many melodies happening at once, even just two melodies happening at once, but they each have their own identity. Okay, that's it. We're done covering chapter 3. All that's left is chapter 4, so you should be in good shape now. And